This is Citizen Weekend with Olive Barrows.
A very good evening to you. Welcome to Citizen Weekend. And as you can see behind me, we're looking at the Haiti deployment 1 year on this week, marking a year since Kenya first deployed troops to Haiti, and Kenya has threatened to review its engagement in Haiti on account of funding uncertainties, as the U.S. says it cannot continue to bear the financial burden, asking the Organization of American Countries to chip in and bear the burden as well. We'll get into all of that in the course of this news hour, but first, the highlights.
It cannot be business as usual if 80 police vehicles have been banned.
Backing the police. President Ruto defends law enforcers, saying law and order must be restored.
When I was shot, I was actually seated and I happened to be recording everything.
The price of protest. Ian Wangimaina, a young man shot on Wednesday, finally wheeled to surgery to remove 2 bullets incurred in Wednesday's protests.
They were telling me, watu wangejaribu kukusaidia hapo, tungeua kesi baadaye.
A blogger's ordeal. Geoffrey Chesoni narrates ordeal at the hands of his captors after 3 days in the hands of abductors. Hunt for stolen police guns. Police in Dagoretti recover AK-47 stolen from police post during June 25th protests and arrest a suspect. I'm joined tonight by Njoki Chege as our sign language interpreter. President William Ruto has declared that his government will stand firmly behind police officers as they carry out their duty to maintain national security, particularly during protests. Speaking at a high-level meeting with top security officials at State House in Nairobi, the president warned that law enforcement officers must not become targets of public aggression. Meanwhile, Interior Cabinet Secretary Kipchumba Murkomen has denied claims he ordered police to shoot demonstrators. Melito Letenges has more.
President William Ruto convened a security meeting at State House, Nairobi, early Saturday, just days after the deadly June 25th protests. In attendance were the Inspector General of Police, the Director of Criminal Investigations, DCI, regional commissioners, and security commanders. Ruto assured the police that his government would not abandon them in the line of duty.
I am going to stand for every man and woman in uniform who is doing the duty of securing our families, children, and nation.
The president accused protesters of engaging in criminal acts and causing destruction, likening the violence to terrorism. He called on Parliament to urgently review laws governing demonstrations.
We must protect the right of those who want to demonstrate, picket, and protest. But equally, we must also protect the right of those who don't want to participate in the demonstration.
The president saying what played out during the June 25th anniversary protests indicated the need for a change.
It cannot be business as usual if 80 police vehicles have been banned, when tens of police stations have been burnt, uniforms stolen.
Interior CS Kipchumba Murkomen, who has come under fire for comments suggesting police should shoot people near police stations on site, now stating he was misunderstood.
You will not find me anywhere where I said somebody should be shot to be killed. You will not find me anywhere where I said that a police officer should take orders from myself. No. I restated the law and reminded them what the law says. Your Excellency, I'm not the one who wrote the law.
Murkomen further defended the police, stating that they often face attacks in silence with no support.
When a police officer is attacked or a police station is banned, no church leader will speak. No foreign envoy will speak. These so-called opposition leaders will speak. If all these people do not speak, and I am the cabinet secretary in charge of these police officers, and I am a lawyer, and I don't speak for them, who will?
President Ruto has also pledged to invest in training and equipment to ensure officers are well prepared to handle demonstrations without putting their lives at risk. Melita Oletenges, Citizen TV.
2 out of 5 firearms stolen from the Dagoretti police station during Wednesday's protests have been recovered. That is an AK-47 rifle and an anti-riot gun. Meanwhile, detectives are still searching for the remaining missing firearms and those who stole them. According to police, the stolen firearms, which are yet to be recovered, pose a great danger to the public. Franklin Wala with the latest on this police operation.
This was one of the latest successful operations that has seen the recovery of some of the items stolen from Dagoretti police station in Kiambu County. The items were stolen when a group of protesters attacked the police station before torching it.
And from that day, we've not gone to rest because we aim to get to the bottom of this matter.
The recovered items include an AK-47 rifle, an anti-riot gun, police uniforms, bullets and a TV set stolen from the station.
This one was stolen from Dagoretti police post, that is on 25th. And it is very unfortunate if we can have this kind of a lethal firearm in the hands of the wrong person. We also got a magazine. This is an AK-47 magazine. Unfortunately, it is empty. The anti-riot gun. This one was also stolen, and unfortunately they could not be able to operate. We also had a pair of handcuffs, a Django shirt, assorted knives, and a mobile phone.
Police say they have arrested at least 7 suspects in the ongoing operation. 4 are detained in police custody, while 3 are receiving treatment at a local facility while under arrest. Investigations led detectives to a residential premise in Kirigu Mutuini, where the recovery was made. Here, 1 suspect was arrested while another one escaped. In the suspect's house, police recovered an AK-47 rifle. It is alleged that the suspect who managed to flee was seen armed and breaking into a local ATM where cash was stolen.
We are very, very optimistic that we will get to recover the remaining 3 firearms. In total, there were 5. We've gotten 2.
On Thursday, police made another breakthrough by arresting at least 5 suspects who are detained awaiting charges related to robbery with violence, arson, among others. The suspects were presented in court and police given 14 days to finalize their investigations. Franklin Wala, Citizen TV.
3 days after the country witnessed protests during the first anniversary of the deadly Occupy Parliament protests in 2024, leading to the death of 19 people and the injury of 513, some of the victims are now appealing for help as the bullets are still lodged inside their bodies. Ian Mwangi Maina, who was shot twice during the protests in Nairobi, is among those admitted to the Kenyatta National Hospital and who only this evening was finally wheeled into theatre. Gatete Njoroge has more.
As thousands of youth stormed the streets of Nairobi on Wednesday to mark the first anniversary since the June 2024 protests, there are those who stood out from the crowd. Ian Maina was one of them, dressed in a white t-shirt with flower prints, a national flag tied around the neck, and another one on his hand. He was conspicuous as he went about capturing every moment. From police officers to fellow protesters, Maina made sure all who turned up got a space in his phone. Even when he joined fellow protesters to play football along the empty streets, his phone never left his hand. It is the same phone that captured the moment when a police officer cut short the 25-year-old content creator's participation in the protests.
I've been shot. Jesus Christ.
He was shot twice while sitting down along Kenyatta Avenue by police officers in a moving Land Cruiser.
When I was shot, I was actually seated and I happened to be recording everything. I was shot half a meter from Okiya Mtata.
Maina was rushed to Kenyatta National Hospital, where at least 100 protesters who were injured were taken for urgent medical care. The victims have, however, raised concerns over delay in being attended to, as Maina attested to us on Saturday morning.
One is touching the bone and it kind of started swelling yesterday and the pain is agonizing. Yes, they are giving me painkillers and pumping glucose so that I don't feel hungry, but that's all. I feel weak. I'm getting weak day by day.
Fortunately, Maina's case was attended to on Saturday evening and he was taken to theatre.
Guys, I've been shot.
Another victim who shared his ordeal online was this man who captured the moment when he was hit by 5 rubber bullets while escaping from police. The rubber bullets hit his right arm and he was rushed to KNH.
Yeah, the 2 bullets.
The 2 victims represent 531 victims who were injured during the protests, witnessed in 23 counties. Kenya National Commission on Human Rights has put the number of those who died at 19 in 7 counties. 15 cases of enforced disappearances were reported. Gatete Njoroge, Citizen TV, Nairobi.
A popular TikToker who was abducted in broad daylight on Tuesday in Mombasa's central business district has revealed the horrors he endured at the hands of his abductors for 3 days. Geoffrey Chesoni claims he was dragged to a forest in Voi, beaten and threatened with death by 7 armed men he suspects to be government security officers before being taken to the State House, Mombasa. He has since been released but ordered to report to the Anti-Terror Police Unit next week on Monday. Francis Mtalaki reports that Chesoni now fears for his life.
This footage shows a Subaru vehicle registration number KDC 126E believed to be carrying the officers who dramatically abducted TikToker Geoffrey Chesoni in the heart of Mombasa town. In broad daylight, one of the men fired a shot in the air before vanishing with him. When we visited Chesoni at his home, he was in pain both physically and emotionally, revealing the terrifying moments.
So when I speak of mental torture, walikuwa wananitishia, yani wanaambia wewe tutakuua hapa na tukuache kulo na wanyama, wewe tutakurusha kwa hii msitu. They told me, they were even giving me examples. You see, with Ojwang, he was killed, na story ikaisha. Like, they were really giving me a lot of examples with the past people that died.
He says he was handcuffed and driven to a forest in Voi, where he was beaten relentlessly by the 7 officers who demanded to know who was funding him and why.
Because in that period ya kuenda, they were interviewing me in that process. So walikuwa wananitishia, wananiambia wewe hata unaweza patikana una mkono, umekufa, utasema aje? Hizi number plates ziko kwa hii gari ni fake. Sisi hakuna mtu anatujua. Umeona? So wewe tuambie nani anawafund ama tutakumaliza.
Chesoni claims the officers who held him captive received instruction from a known source and were in contact briefing the source every step. The 7 armed officers also requested for his phone that he had left during the melee.
These people, they don't look like normal police officers. They don't look anything normal like police officers. They have IDs, and these IDs they represent to you. They don't have names. You just see that police service something. But the names, you don't see.
The ordeal did not end in the forest. Chesoni says he was taken back to Mombasa and dragged to State House, where the physical abuse continued before he was treated and warned never to utter a word to anyone.
Before tufike Voi, I was so down mentally, like I was just waiting for my last, to make my last wish, something like that. So when we reached Voi, they moved me out of the car, and then they were telling you, wewe sasa tukuacha hapo kule na wanyama, usaulike, wewe hata kutakuwa na kaburi yako. Wewe hii ndo mara yako ya mwisho, watu wanakuona. Unajifanya unaweza pigana na serikali. Huwezi pigana na serikali. So wewe sema maneno yako ya mwisho.
Chesoni is a man full of fear, awaiting his summons to appear before the anti-terror police on Monday, where he is expected to give more information.
I don't have peace, that is one. Ile amani yangu sina sahi. Like kama walituma spies wakakaa nje ya mlango yangu for 2 days, you can imagine. So the only place I feel safe is here in the house.
Meanwhile, the Police Reforms Working Group has condemned the arrest and detention of 3 human rights defenders, John Nzao, Mark Amiani and Francis Mwangi, early Saturday morning in Machakos County. The group says that the trio is held at Muthaiga Police Station and is calling for their release, cessation of intimidation and respect for the Constitution by the government. Francis Mtalaki, Citizen TV, Mombasa.
Religious leaders from across Kenya have strongly condemned the killing and injury of Gen Z protesters during Wednesday's demonstrations. They've rejected Interior Cabinet Secretary Kipchumba Murkomen's shoot-on-sight directive, terming it illegal and against both the law and scripture. The clergy are now asking President William Ruto to urgently address demands by the youth, improve the ailing economy and create job opportunities, warning that unless this is done, protests will persist and the nation's stability will remain at risk. Willie Lusige has more.
From Nyandarua to Kajiado and Kericho, religious leaders raising their voices against the bloodshed witnessed during Wednesday's Gen Z protests. In Nyandarua, bishops and clerics visited areas ravaged by looting and arson, condemning the violence even as they upheld the right to protest.
The anger of our youth, while understandable, nonetheless cannot be expressed through destruction of the very foundation of our society that we depend on.
As religious leaders, we condemn the inhumane act and call upon the investigative agencies to act swiftly and ensure that the goons who infiltrated the peaceful demonstration are brought to book.
The leaders say the demonstrations reflect frustrations among jobless, hopeless youth abandoned by their leadership and crushed by a battered economy.
Our country is going through some difficult moments which have affected our people in big way. A feeling of hopelessness and despair seems to have engulfed our land. Yet, even in the most difficult moments and circumstances, we cannot afford to lose hope and destroy our motherland.
And with one voice, they rejected CS Kipchumba Murkomen's order authorizing police to shoot protesters approaching police stations.
Kama kanisa, sheria amri ya 6 hairuhusu mtu yeyote kuua mtu.
It is wrong to kill. It is wrong to harm. So I think and I feel the government should be proactive and the government should be there to protect lives. That statement, it has come at the wrong time, and again, it should not come from a leader.
They are appealing to Gen Z to tone down violent protests, warning that the country's image, economy and livelihoods are deteriorating as traders lose millions. The clergy also pressed the government to urgently address youth demands to avoid recurring demonstrations and deeper national instability.
Na si president wetu akapate kuwakumbuka vijana wetu, bringing industries katika michi yote, vijana hawa wetu wamesoma wakapate kupata riziki katika maisha yao.
The clerics warn that unless leaders act decisively, Kenya risks a turbulent road to the 2027 presidential election. Willie Lusige, Citizen TV, Nairobi.
The shoot-on-sight order issued by Interior Cabinet Secretary Kipchumba Murkomen continues to elicit mixed reactions as security experts fault the directive as carte blanche on the use of excessive force by police. The Cabinet Secretary, however, maintains that the police will not misuse the order and will instead act according to the provisions of the Act governing the conduct of the police service.
Mtu mwenye anatupiwa mawe polisi anataka kuua polisi ati atakuja kupembelezwa. Unafikiria bunduki ni mandazi? Lakini wananchi.
This was the stance taken by the CS Interior on Thursday in the wake of the protests that turned violent, resulting in deaths, destruction of private and public property, and injuries to civilians and law enforcers. Those orders have, however, landed the CS in hot water as he now seeks to save face in the wake of condemnation from different sectors of society. Murkomen, however, says police officers will remain guided by the law.
All the police officers understand how to use a firearm, don't you? Yeah, it's clearly provided for in the National Police Service Act of 2011. It is spelled out in the law that when you use a firearm against another person, either your life is in danger.
That act further spells out how the police should use firearms. The 6th schedule states that a police officer should always attempt to use nonviolent means first. If that is not efficient, then a police officer is allowed to use force. But even then, the force used should be proportional to the objective to be achieved, the seriousness of the offense, and the resistance of the offending person. Security expert Byron Adera says Murkomen's orders in their ambiguity could lead to the misapplication of the law.
If it's lacking in specificity, assuming someone that's within this particular setup is looking at that scenario and saying, oh, well, now the sluice gates are open for us to actually just shoot on sight. So a high reliability organization must treat itself to a level of specificity. Of course, there's the shoot on sight, there's the shoot to kill, maybe shoot to disarm. These are guided by some measure of policy directions or maybe rules of engagement.
The CS has since said he did not issue shoot-to-kill orders, but rather shoot-on-sight orders. Byron says the circumstances cited by the CS do not warrant such action from law enforcement.
Shoot on sight, on the other hand, is pretty much firing upon, a person. So let's say a target in this particular situation, upon seeing them. So in which case, they are not given the benefit of either being challenged or communicated to. And this happens in instances where probably an intelligence has come through and there's a proper profiling that's been done on those particular agents, and it's seen that, as and when you actually see them, we know there are people who have this, intention to cause either mass destruction, or there are people upon, them being sighted, then they know when they are actually in that kind of environment. It's been seen and it's been determined that they are potentially very, very dangerous.
Murkomen and the Ministry of Interior have been challenged to make clear the policy directions that will enforce the response by the law enforcement officers, while keeping in mind that the National Police Service remains independent with proper structures that allow for orders and instructions to flow. Brenda Wanga, Citizen TV.
Police in Kisii have launched an investigation meant to get rid of fraudsters conning M-Pesa shop owners in Kisii town, Keumbu and surrounding areas. A recent incident at Keumbu market saw CCTV captured 2 women, quote-unquote, sweeping clean an M-Pesa shop and vanishing with almost 94,000 shillings in just minutes. Phone signal data later placed them in Mulot. Citizen TV's Crispin Otieno with the details.
On Sunday, 22nd of June, at around 11:18 a.m., CCTV captured a woman entering a cosmetic and M-Pesa shop along the busy Keumbu Keroka Road. The woman dressed in blue. There was nothing untoward or amiss with her. She was examining a brown purse. Little did the shop assistant know that the lady was part of a bigger plot to sweep the shop clean. She had probed the shop days earlier, then returned while the regular owners were away, leaving the children to run the business. CCTV shows her convincing a young girl to hand over the phone to call her mother for a discount. While on the phone, she saved a new contact labeled as Safaricom official and signaled a second woman waiting outside to call it. Shop owner Stella Bosibori recalls, using the saved number, the fraudster then called and persuaded the young girl to transfer funds to increase M-Pesa business float.
Alafu kwa jina akasave namba ya 0722000000 ambao ni ya Safaricom, na baadaye aliambia mtoto kwamba ameniconnect kwa simu. Alafu kuna mama alimuongelesha kama mimi, akamwambia kwamba achukue pesa kwa beauty shop na ya hoteli.
CCTV then shows a second woman in brown trousers entering briefly. They flash signs to each other, exchange a bag and exit. By the time she left, the shop had been robbed of 93,965 shillings. Her husband, Charles Kambaga, says the two visitors returned on Friday asking for vibeti before disappearing.
Fraud yetu inaenda chuna chini, sasa ndio mtoto akapaniki akaenda akaweka. Na sasa wakamwambia afinye simu nayo pesa zingine zikatoka kwa simu. So tuliripoti hiyo kesi kwa DCI Kisii.
Hizo picha zitakapoonekana yeyote atakayejua huyo mwanamke, tunaomba kwamba kesi tumeripoti iko under DCI Kisii Police Station iripotiwe ili waweze wakapatikana, na pia ndio tupate usaidizi na pia wasiweze kuibia wengine.
CCTV still images reveal the face of the woman in blue. Phone signal data shows one in Mulot, another in Nairobi's Kahawa West.
Na tunaomba watu wakuwe macho sana, na wanawake wao wanatembea kila mahali, sio hapa peke yake. Ni kama wanasunguka Kenya mzima.
For those who've been targeted before, they warn strangers may pose as customers before sweeping accounts dry in a twinkle. Crispin Otieno, Citizen TV, Kisii.
We take a break on Citizen Weekend. Thank you for staying with us on Citizen Weekend. Deputy President Kithure Kindiki has once again vowed stern action against the planners and perpetrators of the chaos on Wednesday that left traders counting losses in the hundreds of millions of shillings. Speaking in Kitui on Saturday, Kindiki said that while the government respects the right to picket, it will not allow the infringement of others' rights by the destruction of their property. Laura Otieno reports on the tough stance taken by the government, which has vowed to deal firmly with anarchy.
Government officials continue to talk against alleged instigators of chaos during the Wednesday protests, which left 15 people dead and property worth hundreds of millions either looted or destroyed. In Mavoko, Kitui County, Deputy President Kithure Kindiki condemned attacks on police officers.
We cannot allow our country to fall under the hands of criminals and organized groups, breaking into police stations, stealing guns and ammunition, harassing our police officers, and beating them up in the name of freedom of expression. We have to make a choice as a country between law and order by our security agencies, or if we don't do that, we risk goons, robbers and criminals taking over our country.
While conducting funds drives in Tana River and Kakamega counties, leaders allied to government also called on young Kenyans to shun violent protests, which they said have been infiltrated by those with ulterior motives.
Nimewaambia ndugu zangu, achaneni kwenda kwenye maandamano kwa sababu mafisi ambao wanalemea mkono waipate nyama wataingia na wataleta rabsha katika maandamano ya amani ambayo nyinyi ndugu zetu, nyinyi marika zangu mnayafanya.
Sisi tunawaambia hapa na state categorically, stop camouflaging anarchy and terrorism in the name of maandamano. Wacha sisi tukae na nchi yetu, tuilinde, hatutaki kuchoma nchi yetu ya Kenya.
Viongozi wanazungumza maneno, wasizidishe mambo ya ukabila kwa mambo yao. Tunataka ukiwa na pesa, letea watu hapa Malava, ulete kwa bodaboda, ulete kwa maendeleo ya kina mama.
Laura Otieno, Citizen TV.
The Vitiligo Society of Kenya today celebrated World Vitiligo Day at Charter Hall in Nairobi. The day is aimed at raising awareness on the autoimmune disorder that causes loss of skin pigmentation and lighter patches on the skin. The day was marked with a march around Nairobi's central business district and free medical screening, cosmetology and psychotherapy services aimed at raising awareness on the skin disease. This year's celebration was themed Shades of Strength, aimed to highlight the importance of inclusion, awareness and empowerment of people living with vitiligo. The celebrations, which take a look.
By race, people living with rare diseases or something unexplainable or something people can't put a terminology to it, they literally just pull away. And at the heart of stigma is fear and lack of information. And that is where you come in. By being an advocate, by advocating for yourself. And the heart of advocacy is not being ashamed and not apologizing for your existence.
Vitiligo is a skin condition that is not contagious. It's non-contagious disease that only affects the skin, making the skin to have whiter patches.
As I was saying, the celebrations, which were set for the 25th, were postponed on account of the protests. Motorists turned up at the Carnival grounds for the AA Auto Clinic and Best Driver Challenge Nairobi edition, an action-packed event aimed at promoting road safety and responsible driving. The event brought together top drivers to showcase their skills in precision, safety and defensive driving. From high speed to emergency braking drills, drivers were put to the test in various challenges designed to reflect real-life road scenarios. Alongside the thrilling competition, motorists benefited from a free auto clinic where experts offered comprehensive vehicle checks and safety advice. The goal being to reduce road carnage by encouraging regular vehicle maintenance and safe driving habits.
We are doing also, we have a station here where we are training people. What does it involve to be a good driver? What does it involve to follow road safety? What are those road signs for? And so on and so forth. The best driver in Kenya will go to compete with the best drivers in other African countries for what we call the African Championship. That will happen in Naivasha at the WRC stage where the safari rally happens.
Thank you for staying with us on Citizen Weekend. On to sports. Kibera soccer women are the 2025 FKF Women's Cup champion after defeating pre-match favourites Vihiga Queens 1-0 in the final stage at the Afraha Stadium in Nakuru. After a barren first half, bedecked by an end-to-end attacking football from both sides, substitute Stella Odhiambo scored the all-important goal for the Nairobi-based side to seal the win and bag the trophy. Record League champions Gor Mahia are brimming with confidence ahead of the FKF Cup final slated for Ulinzi Sports Complex on Sunday. Kogalo will face National Super League champions Nairobi United, who have already been promoted to the top tier. Gor, who missed the league title to Kenya Police FC, will be out to nail a win, as this is their only route to continental football. The winner will represent the country in the 2025-26 CAF Confederations Cup.
Our fans, as I said, because Gor ni team kubwa na hii game, like sisi kama players, hii game tume decide that we have to win it for our fans more so.
I think so far our preparation has gone the way we had planned for it, and being the final day today, I think the motivation in the camp is so high. Everybody is looking forward to our match tomorrow. So it's an opportunity again for the players and the club to at least play in the Continental Championship.
The 25th edition of the Lewa Safari Marathon lived up to its billing with over 1,500 athletes taking part in this year's edition. Our very own James Opondo Yapicha was at the Lewa Conservancy in Meru County and filed this report.
Samson Leimayan and Mercy Kwambai are the winners of the 25th edition of the Lewa Safari Marathon held on Saturday at the Lewa Conservancy in Meru County. Leimayan, who hails from Maralal, timed 2 hours, 28 minutes and 35 seconds to cross the finish line as John Muse and Joseph Kariuki managed second and third positions respectively.
Hii sio mara ya kwanza, niliparticipate 2018 half marathon. Lakini sikufanya vyema. Hii ndio mara nyingine ya pili nimekuja huku na nimekuwa mshindi, nimefurahia sana.
On the other hand, Mercy Kwambai swept the deck to win the women's marathon, clocking 2 hours, 47 minutes and 17 seconds, beating Evelyn Lagat and Monica Wateto, who settled for second and third positions.
Race hii ilikuwa mzuri, kudefend title yangu nimefurahi sana. Nilikuwa mshindi 2023, leo pia nimekuwa mshindi. Kuweka time hapa ni ngumu sababu course ni ngumu na pia ni joto.
In men's half marathon, Michael Kamau led Justin Lelilat and Samson Seidumu to sweep the podium, with Mary Waidera winning the women's category. Safaricom CEO Peter Ndegwa, together with the Lewa Conservancy Community Development Manager John Kinoti, hailed the partnership between the communication giant and Lewa Conservancy in conserving the wildlife ecosystem.
We are the biggest supporter of Kenya's passion point sports, of which running is one of the sports. We are the biggest supporter of communities through our foundation. So conserving the environment is a very big area for us. And also we provide connectivity. So today we have connectivity on wheels, allowing this event to run.
Pesa mingi hutengwa inaenda kwa mashule na ni shule za primary schools. Na kwa pale ndio unakuta kuko na hizo environmental clubs zimetengenezwa. Mashule hayo yote 27 yako na nafasi ya kukuja pia Lewa kuzunguka wakaone vile kazi ya uhifadhi inafanya. Kwa hivyo tunawaweka pamoja na tunawaleta pamoja ili wakaweze kuwa na hali ya kujua maneno ya uhifadhi.
More than 1,500 athletes traversed the breathtaking landscape of the Lewa Conservancy as the animals looked afar at the athletes in what was the 25th edition of the Lewa Safari Marathon. James Opondo for Citizen Sports at the Lewa Conservancy, Meru County.
Kenya's para-volley teams have their eyes firmly set on lifting the African women and men para-volley titles after good preparations. The squads of both the men and women's teams have been whittled down to 14 players in each category ahead of the championship serve-off on Tuesday at the Kasarani Indoor Arena here in Nairobi. The women's championship has attracted 3 teams, and Kenya, ranked 10th in the world and 2nd in Africa, will take on Rwanda and Nigeria in a round-robin format.
Team iliingia camp kuanzia tarehe 15 mwezi wa 5 na bado tunaendelea, but officially team iliingia camp tarehe 23 hapa Kasarani. Kwamba tumeendelea vizuri. We started blending with the team, kuwaweka pamoja, walikuwa wametoka sehemu mbalimbali.
Kulingana na mikakati ambazo makoches wanaweka, tunajikaza kabisa kwa sababu kama pool yetu iko na teams mbili, na tukitaka kupata chance kubwa ya kuenda World Championship lazima tushinde game zetu zote mbili.
And that concludes Citizen Weekend. But remember, you can rewatch any story or the entire bulletin on our social media platforms and online on YouTube. So Citizen TV Kenya is where you should tune in.